The briefing room fell silent when the words appeared on the screen. Final examination, 72-hour survival exercise on Planet 7. Cadet looked up from his, curious. Around him, the other cadets had gone pale. Some were shaking. One of the students had started making a high-pitched whining sound that had learned meant extreme distress. "Instructor," someone called out. It was the who sat 2 rows ahead. His translator made his voice sound thin and worried. "Did the display malfunction? 7 is listed as a Class 9. The instructor, a massive being covered in thick armor plating, clicked his mandibles together. "No malfunction. You heard correctly." The room erupted. Students were on their feet, voices rising in panic. Heard fragments of different languages, all expressing the same thing: fear. "That's a 40% mortality rate. Even trained soldiers die there. This is madness." Raised his hand and waited. When the instructor pointed at him, he asked, "What kind of terrain should we expect?" The other students turned to stare at him like he had grown a second head. His compound eyes seemed to bulge even more than usual. The instructor pulled up images on the screen. Dense jungle covered in thick mist, jagged mountains that pierced purple clouds, rivers that seemed to glow with an unhealthy sheen, toxic atmosphere, aggressive predators, extreme temperature shifts, acidic precipitation. This world has killed more colonization attempts than any other in the sector. Nodded, making notes. "What's the gravity?" 1.3 times standard. Atmospheric composition. 80% of optimal oxygen levels, what humans would call thin air. Wrote this down while around him. Students were still arguing with the instructor. Some were demanding to speak with the academy director. Others were already calculating their odds of withdrawal. "You will be dropped in mixed species squads of 4, the instructor continued, speaking over the noise. "Minimal gear, no weapons, 3 days to reach the extraction point. Squad assignments are already posted." After the briefing ended, checked the squad roster. He read the names: an amphibious being from a water world, one of the avian species with hollow bones and excellent eyesight, and himself. He found his squad mates in the hallway, was packing, his 6 legs moving in an agitated pattern, sat in a puddle of water he had created, his skin looking dry and cracked, perched on a railing, feathers puffed up in distress. "We are going to die," said as soon as he saw. 40%. Those are terrible odds. "We should request a different assignment," croaked, "something reasonable." Sat down and pulled out his. "Let me see what I can find about 7. He started searching through databases while the others continued to panic. "The temperature ranges from 40 degrees to -5, read from his own device. "That range would crack my exoskeleton." "The water is acidic," added miserably. "I need to stay hydrated, but drinking that will kill me." "The predators are enormous," chirped, her voice trembling. "Some of them fly." Looked at the environmental data and smiled slightly. "This doesn't look too bad." All 3 of his squad mates stopped talking and stared at him. "Not too bad," translator made his voice go even higher. "Are you malfunctioning, human?" "I mean the temperatures are manageable. 40 degrees is warm but not extreme. -5 is cold but nothing serious. I grew up hiking in conditions like this." Hiking? Asked. "What is hiking?" "Walking in nature for fun. Mountains, forests, that kind of thing." The 3 aliens looked at each other in confusion. "You walk in dangerous environments for entertainment?" Asked slowly. "Sure, my family did it all the time. My sister loved it. We would go up into the mountains, camp overnight, cook food over fires. Good times." Made a sound like air escaping from a sealed container. "Your planet allows this. Your young are permitted to enter hazardous zones." "Well, yeah, it builds character." Over the next 2 days, tried to prepare his squad. He showed them how to layer clothing for temperature changes. He demonstrated ways to purify water. He explained the concept of packing yourself to conserve energy. His squad mates listened, but seemed unconvinced that any of this would help. On the morning of the drop, they stood in the transport ship wearing their basic survival gear. Each cadet had a small pack with minimal supplies: a knife, a fire starter, a water container, and a basic shelter tarp. Checked his pack and felt the familiar excitement he always got before a good hike. The others looked like they were preparing for execution. The transport doors opened. Below them, 7's jungle stretched endlessly. The air shimmered with heat. Could see the purple-tinged clouds and the mist rising from the forest. "Remember your training," the drop instructor announced. "Reach the extraction point 72 hours from now. Your beacon will activate if you are injured beyond your ability to continue. Good luck." One by one, the squads jumped. When it was their turn, went first, dropping through the air and feeling the wind rush past. His parachute deployed automatically, and he guided himself toward a clearing. He landed smoothly, released his chute, and looked around. The heat hit him immediately, but it was nothing worse than a summer day back home. The air was thinner, making him breathe a bit harder, but again, it reminded him of hiking at higher altitudes with his father. Landed next, his legs trembling. Then, who immediately started looking around for water. Finally, who landed in a tree and had to climb down carefully. Atmosphere analysis complete, said, checking his scanner. Slightly toxic. We should minimize exertion to reduce intake. Took a deep breath, filling his lungs. It smelled like earth and plants and rain. Seems fine to me. Fine? Voice went shrill. The toxicity levels would damage my respiratory system after prolonged exposure. Walked over to a nearby stream. His scanner showed the water was acidic, with a pH that made back away in fear. Cupped his hands, dipped them in, and took a drink. No, all three of his squad mates shouted at once. Swallowed. The water tasted a bit metallic but was cool and refreshing. What? It's just a little acidic, not too different from some mineral springs back home. His translator seemed to malfunction for a moment, producing only static. When it came back online, his voice was barely a whisper. You just drank Class-9 toxic water and survived. Wiped his mouth. I mean, it's not that toxic. Anyway, we should get moving. According to the map, extraction is about 40 kilometers northeast. If we maintain a good pace, we can make it in 2 days and have a rest day. He started walking. Behind him, his 3 squad mates exchanged looks that, despite their different species, all communicated the same thing. Their human teammate might be more dangerous than the planet itself. Flew up to perch on a low branch beside him. She said carefully, "What class is your?" Thought about it? Not sure exactly. Earth has pretty varied environments. Why? Just curious, replied, but her feathers remained puffed up in alarm. As they moved into the jungle, smiled to himself. This was going to be just like the hiking trips he remembered. Maybe he would even find some interesting plants to show when he got back. By the time the sun began to set, they had covered 12 kilometers. Felt good, energized by the movement and the fresh air. His squad mates looked ready to collapse. Exoskeleton was making small cracking sounds with each step. The temperature had dropped 15 degrees in the last hour, and his body was struggling to adjust. Had needed to stop every few hundred meters to find water for his skin, though he refused to drink from any of the streams. Was flying less and less, her hollow bones aching under the heavy gravity. We should make camp, announced, looking around. He found a good spot under a rock overhang that would provide shelter. This looks perfect. Perfect, croaked weakly. The temperature is dropping rapidly, we will freeze. Checked his. It is going to get down to about -3 tonight. We will need a fire and some wind protection. A fire, asked. We have no fuel. Looked at the dead wood scattered around the forest floor, the dry leaves, the fibrous bark on nearby trees. There is fuel everywhere. Watch, I will show you. He gathered materials while his squad mates watched in confusion. He built a small fire pit with stones, arranged tinder and kindling, and used his fire starter. Within minutes, flames were crackling warmly. Incredible, breathed. You created heat from plant matter. It is called a campfire. People have been making them for thousands of years on Earth. Your species has had fire technology for thousands of years? Asked, his translator making his voice sound awed. Well, yeah, much longer actually, probably hundreds of thousands of years. The alien stared at the fire like it was a miracle, used his knife to cut branches, and created a simple lean-to shelter with his tarp. He showed them how to insulate the ground with leaves to stay warm. This would require advanced survival training, said quietly. Yet you learned this as a child. Shrugged. My dad taught me when I was maybe 7 or 8. He said everyone should know how to camp. My sister and I used to compete to see who could build better shelters. As night fell, the temperature continued to drop. Moved closer to the fire, his body no longer making cracking sounds. Had finally found a small pool of rainwater that was clean enough to soak in. Huddled near the fire, her feathers fluffed for warmth. Pulled out some ration bars and water. Then he noticed a plant growing nearby. The leaves looked familiar. He checked it carefully, broke off a piece and smelled it. What are you doing? Asked nervously. This plant is edible. We could supplement our rations. How do you know this? We only landed 4 hours ago. It looks like something we have on Earth. Same leaf pattern, same smell, probably similar properties. Before anyone could stop him, put a small piece in his mouth and chewed. He waited a moment, then swallowed. You just ate an unknown alien plant, shrieked. It tastes fine, a bit bitter but not bad. Gathered more of the leaves. I will cook these over the fire, they should be better warm. His squad mates watched in horror as he prepared the plant matter and ate it without any apparent ill effects. After an hour, when showed no signs of poisoning, spoke up. I need to ask you something. What class is Earth really? Thought about it while he fed more wood to the fire. I looked it up once. I think it is rated as Class 8 or maybe Class 9. But honestly, I never understood the classification system. Earth just seems normal to me. Class 8 or 9, repeated slowly. You evolved on it. If you say so, we just call it home. Shifted his position. Describe Earth to us. Well, let's see. The temperature can range from -50 degrees to +50 degrees depending on where you are. We have weather systems called hurricanes that can destroy entire cities. The ground shakes sometimes in earthquakes. There are volcanoes that explode. We have insects that carry diseases, snakes with venom that can kill you, sharks in the ocean, bears in the forests, and plenty of plants that are toxic. The three aliens had gone very quiet. And humans just live there, asked, on a planet actively trying to kill them. It is not trying to kill us. That is just nature. You learn to deal with it. Learn to deal with it, repeated. You adapt to deadly conditions as a survival trait. I guess so. Was looking at with what might have been his species' expression of respect. You drank acidic water today. You ate an unknown plant. You created fire from raw materials. You built shelter without tools. These are skills your people consider basic. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, not everyone camps, but most people could do this stuff if they needed to. My sister is way better at this than me. She works as a planetary surveyor now, exploring new worlds. Your sister explores unknown planets for employment? Asked. Yep, she loves it. She sends me messages about all the cool places she visits. Made a small chirping sound. Humans actively seek out dangerous environments. Some of us, yeah, we like adventure. The fire crackled. Above them, Seven's two moons rose into the sky, casting purple light through the trees. The jungle was full of sounds, strange calls, rustling leaves, distant roars. Do those sounds concern you? Asked, noticing was listening calmly. Not really, just animals being animals. As long as we keep the fire going and stay alert, we should be fine. Should be fine, muttered. The human thinks we should be fine on a Class 9. Around midnight, something large moved through the brush near their camp. Heard it first and sat up, scanning the darkness beyond the firelight. Two large eyes reflected the flames, about 3 meters off the ground. Woke with a start. Predator, she shrieked. The creature moved closer. It was massive, easily 4 meters tall, with scales that glinted in the moonlight. Its mouth was full of teeth designed for ripping meat. And scrambled backward, took to the air with a panicked flutter of wings. Stood up slowly and made himself as large as possible, spreading his arms wide. Then he picked up a burning branch from the fire and shouted at the top of his lungs. Get out of here, G-O-O-N, get. The creature paused, waved the burning branch and shouted again, louder this time. He added some stomping for good measure, making as much noise as he could. The predator hesitated, then turned and crashed back into the jungle. Sat back down and poked the fire, adding more wood. There, that should do it. His 3 squad mates were frozen in shock. You just scared away an apex predator, said, his voice barely working, with noise and fire. Well, yeah, most animals do not want to fight if they think you might be dangerous. You just have to convince them you are not worth the trouble. Most animals, repeated. On your planet, you encounter apex predators regularly enough to develop strategies. I mean not in cities, but out in nature, sure. There are bears, mountain lions, wolves. You learn what to do. Landed back on the ground, her feathers still puffed up. Your species evolved alongside multiple apex predators. Guess so, never really thought about it. The rest of the night passed quietly, though none of the aliens slept much. They watched doze peacefully by the fire, as comfortable as if he were in his own bed. When morning came, the temperature rose quickly back to 35 degrees, removed a layer of clothing and stretched. He felt good, refreshed. A nice night under the stars always helped him sleep well. His squad mates looked exhausted. Exoskeleton had developed small cracks from the temperature stress, was dehydrated, could barely keep her eyes open. Ready to move? Asked cheerfully. We have good weather today, should make excellent progress. Stared at him. I have a theory. I think humans might be more dangerous than this planet. Laughed. Come on, we are not dangerous. We are just adaptable. That, said quietly, is what makes you dangerous. They broke camp and continued northeast. Started humming an old hiking song his father used to sing. Behind him, 3 aliens followed, tired and scared, but beginning to understand that they had the best possible guide through hell, someone who thought it was paradise. The sky turned the color of old bruises on the afternoon of their second day, looked up and frowned. The clouds were moving wrong, swirling in patterns that made his instincts scream warning. "We need to find shelter," he said, stopping in his tracks. Checked his scanner, his body went rigid. Iron storm approaching, Class 5 severity. "What does that mean?" asked. "It means we are all going to die," chirped from above. "Class 5 iron storms have a 98% fatality rate." Pulled up data on his device. Winds over 200 kilometers per hour, acidic precipitation, electrical discharge, recommended action, seek underground shelter immediately. Looked around. They were in a valley with no caves visible. The nearest mountain was at least 15 kilometers away. "How long until it hits?" 20 minutes, said quietly. "Then we need to move fast. Can we activate our emergency beacons?" Was already trying. "The electromagnetic interference is too strong. Nothing is transmitting." Thunder boomed in the distance. The wind was already picking up, making the trees sway and creak. Felt the first drops of rain hit his face. Where they landed, his skin tingled uncomfortably. "The rain is acidic," said, his amphibious skin already showing irritation. "My species cannot survive prolonged exposure." Thought quickly. He looked at the plants around them, spotted some large leaves with a waxy coating and started cutting them down with his knife. "Help me gather these, as many as you can carry." "What are you doing?" asked, but she started grabbing leaves anyway. "Making rain gear. The waxy coating should repel the acid." The wind was getting stronger. Worked fast, showing them how to layer the leaves over their bodies and tie them in place with vine-like plants. He made a crude poncho for himself, a covering for sensitive joints, a wrap for skin, and a protective layer for feathers. "This is insane," said, but he was already putting on the leaf armor. "We cannot survive out in the open." "We are not staying in the open. Look there," pointed to the mountain in the distance. "I saw caves on the satellite images from the briefing. If we can reach them, we can wait out the storm." "That is 15 kilometers away," protested, "in a Class 5 iron storm." "Then we better start running." The storm hit like a hammer. One moment the rain was light, the next it was a wall of water falling from the sky. The wind screamed through the trees, ripping branches loose and sending them flying. Lightning cracked across the sky, so bright it left afterimages. Ran. His squad mates followed because there was no other choice. The rain burned where it touched exposed skin. Felt it on his face and hands, a sharp stinging that got worse the longer he was exposed. But he had felt worse. That time he and got caught in a storm on Mount, they had been soaked through and half frozen. This was bad but not impossible. Struggling. His 6 legs were not built for running, especially not in high gravity with wind trying to knock him over. Grabbed him and helped him forward, half carrying when the wind got too strong. A tree crashed down right in front of them. Dodged left, pulling with him. Behind them was fighting to stay airborne. The wind kept throwing her around like a toy. "Stay on the ground," shouted over the storm. "It is safer." She landed and started running on her talons, her wings tucked tight against her body. The journey became a blur of movement and pain. The rain kept coming, acidic enough that could feel his skin getting irritated even through the leaf covering. The wind was so strong he had to lean into it just to move forward. Lightning struck nearby, close enough that he felt the electricity in the air. But he kept moving, one foot in front of the other, just like hiking through a bad storm, just like that time in the mountains when the weather turned and he and his father had to push through sleet and ice to reach safety. "How much farther?" gasped. His skin was protected by the leaves, but he was exhausted. Checked his compass, hard to read in the rain, but he got a bearing. "Maybe 8 kilometers now. We are halfway there." "Halfway," repeated. He sounded delirious. "We are going to die halfway." "No, we are not," said firmly. "We are going to make it, just keep moving." Thunder boomed so loud it felt like the world was splitting apart. A bolt of lightning hit a tree maybe 50 meters away, exploding it into splinters. Fire started to burn despite the rain, quickly snuffed out by the downpour. Arms ached from helping, his legs burned from running uphill in high gravity. His lungs worked hard in the thin air. His skin stung from the acid rain, but none of it was enough to stop him. He thought about all the family hiking trips, the time they climbed through a snowstorm, the time they got lost and had to navigate by stars, the time twisted her ankle and he carried her 3 kilometers back to camp. His father's voice in his memory: "When things get hard, you do not stop. You adapt, you overcome, you survive." "Tell me about Earth," shouted over the wind. "Distract me." Almost laughed. "What do you want to know?" "Why do humans go into dangerous places for fun?" "I guess, because it makes you feel alive. When you are on a mountain and the weather is bad and everything is hard, and then you reach the top and see the view, it is amazing. You feel like you accomplished something real." "This is accomplishment to you," asked, sounding horrified. Well, this is more extreme than most hikes, but yeah, kind of. We are facing a challenge and overcoming it together. That is worth something. A gust of wind nearly knocked them all over. Braced himself and held firm. When it passed, he started moving again immediately. They climbed. The terrain got steeper as they approached the mountain. The rain somehow got even worse. His makeshift rain gear was starting to fall apart, the leaves dissolving in the acid, but they had served their purpose. His skin was damaged, but not critically. I can see the mountain, called out. Her vision was better than the others. How far? Maybe 2 kilometers. Felt a surge of energy. They were going to make it. Come on, we are almost there. The last 2 kilometers were the hardest. The slope was steep and slippery. The wind was trying to push them back down. The rain was relentless, but kept climbing, helping his squad mates up when they stumbled, refusing to let anyone fall behind. When they finally reached the cave entrance, all 4 of them collapsed inside. The cave was dark but dry. The sound of the storm was suddenly muffled by Stone. Lay on his back, breathing hard. His whole body hurt, but he was smiling. We made it, he said. Made a sound that might have been laughing or crying. His translator could not seem to decide. 15 kilometers, through a Class 5 iron storm. We should all be dead. But we are not, said quietly. He was checking himself for injuries. The human saved us. Shook her feathers, water flying everywhere. How are you still conscious? Your species' endurance is impossible. I am tired, admitted. That was rough, but I have done worse training hikes. There was this one time with my military preparation course where we had to run 30 kilometers with full packs in the heat. This was harder, but not by much. The aliens stared at him again with that look he was getting used to. The look that said they were everything they thought they knew about humans. Sat up and started looking around the cave. We should go deeper, get away from the entrance in case water flows in. As they moved into the cave, Scanner picked up something. There are structures here, old ones. They found them about 50 meters in. Ruins, buildings that had once been part of a colony, now abandoned and crumbling. Examined the remains. This was a settlement attempt, maybe 200 years ago. What happened to them? Asked. They died, said simply. All of them. They tried to terraform this world and failed. The planet killed them. Was reading inscriptions on the walls. They called it impossible. They could not adapt fast enough to survive. Looked at the ruins and thought about his own species. Humans had spread to dozens of worlds. They did not terraform much. They just adapted, changed their behavior and equipment and methods to fit the environment instead of trying to change the environment to fit them. They tried to make the planet comfortable, he said quietly. We would have just learned to be uncomfortable. Tilted her head. That is the difference, is it not? They tried to survive despite the planet. Humans survived because of their planet. Earth made you strong. Had never thought about it that way. He looked out at the storm still raging beyond the cave entrance. Lightning flashed. Thunder rolled. Rain poured down in sheets. I guess it did, he said. Want to help me build a fire? We should dry off and get warm. His squad mates watched as found dry wood in the deeper parts of the cave and built another fire. They had stopped being surprised by his competence. Instead, they were beginning to feel something else. Safe. If a human thought they would survive, they probably would. Because humans came from a world that made Class 9 look like vacation spots. The storm raged for 18 hours. When it finally passed, the jungle outside looked like a battlefield. Trees were down everywhere. The ground was torn up and muddy, but the air was clear and the sky was bright. And his squad emerged from the cave tired but alive. They had 68 hours into their 72-hour test, just a few more kilometers to the extraction point. We should move slowly, said. His exoskeleton was still cracked in places, but he seemed in better spirits. Conserve our remaining energy. Was about to agree when they heard something overhead, the sound of engines. All 4 of them looked up to see a rescue ship descending toward the extraction point, ahead of schedule. That is early, said. The test is not over yet. Checked his scanner. There is a beacon active, emergency extraction. They looked at each other and started moving faster. An emergency beacon meant someone was injured or dying. When they reached the clearing designated as the extraction point, they found a scene that made no sense. A rescue ship had landed. Its ramp was down. Standing at the base of the ramp was the largest being had ever seen, Commander, the Academy's head of tactical training. His species was famous for being warriors. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor-like skin, with 4 arms that could each lift massive weights. Was standing perfectly still, staring at something. His expression was difficult to read through his species' facial structure, but thought he detected shock. In front of was another human, A young man about his age, wearing torn cadet uniform covered in dirt and what looked like blood. 3 dead creatures lay at his feet. Each one was a Class 9 apex predator, the same species that had approached camp that first night. Each one had been killed with what appeared to be a crude spear made from a sharpened tree branch. The human cadet was leaning on his spear, looking annoyed. Jin called out in surprise. He recognized the other cadet from weapons training. Jin turned and his expression shifted from annoyance to relief. "You made it." "Yeah, we all did. What happened to your squad?" Jin's expression darkened. "Dead, all 3 of them. We got separated during the storm. I tried to find them, but—" he shook his head. "I activated my beacon when I realized I was the only one left." Finally found his voice. "You killed 3 with a stick." Jin looked at the spear like he had forgotten he was holding it. "Oh, yeah, they kept attacking me. I got tired of running, so I made this and fought back. Is that against the rules?" "Against the rules," repeated slowly. "You are asking if defending yourself against apex predators is against the rules." "Well, the briefing said no weapons. I did not want to get disqualified for improvising one." Walked over and examined the dead creatures. Each one had been killed with clean strikes to vital areas. "Nice work. These things are huge." "Thanks. The first one was tricky, but after I understood their attack patterns, the others were easier." His translator was making strange sounds, like it was struggling to process his words. Finally, he managed. "You analyzed predator behavior mid-combat and adapted your tactics." Jin shrugged. "I mean, my dad used to take me hunting back on Earth. These things hunt kind of like big cats. Once you know that, you can predict their moves." From behind, he heard make a sound like air escaping. "Your father took you hunting, for apex predators." "Well, deer and boar mostly, but the principle is the same." "Looked at, your squad survived the storm." "Yes, sir. We hiked a cave and waited it out." "Hiked through a Class 5 iron storm." "Yes, sir. It was challenging but manageable." His expression shifted to something that might have been respect or might have been fear. It was hard to tell. "Cadet, what is your classification?" I've been asked this question several times now. "Earth, sir. I believe it is rated Class 8 or Class 9. And this is normal behavior for your species. Surviving impossible conditions through improvisation and endurance." "Thought about it? I guess so, sir. Humans are pretty good at adapting." Jin nodded. "My sister works in disaster relief. She goes into war zones and natural disaster areas to help people evacuate. She always says humans are best when things are worst." "Your sister volunteers to enter disaster zones," said flatly. "Well, she gets paid, but yeah." Turned and walked up the ramp of his ship without another word. They could hear him inside, speaking rapidly in his own language to someone on communication. Other ships began arriving to collect the remaining cadets, watched as squad after squad came in. Many were missing members. Some cadets were on stretchers, injured badly enough to need medical intervention. Others looked traumatized, their eyes vacant with shock. And then there were the 2 humans, standing calmly with their alien squad mates, looking tired but fundamentally okay. Approached Commander when he emerged from the ship again. "Sir, permission to speak." "Granted. I would like to request that my future assignments place me under human command." His eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Sir, over the past 3 days I have learned that human threat assessment is fundamentally different from ours. What they consider manageable, we consider lethal. If I am going to face more environments like this, I want a human telling me it will be fine. Because apparently, when humans say that, they mean it." And moved forward as well. "I second this request," said. "I as well," added. "The human saved our lives multiple times. His judgment is sound even when it seems insane." Looked at the 3 aliens, then at Cadet. "Did you at any point feel your life was in serious danger during this exercise?" Considered the question honestly. "There were some tense moments, sir. The storm was probably the worst. But no, I never felt like we could not handle it. We had shelter, we had water, we knew where we were going. It was just a matter of keeping moving and staying smart." "Just a matter of keeping moving," repeated. He looked like he wanted to say something else but could not find the words. A medical officer approached Jin. "Cadet, you need treatment. You have acid burns and lacerations." Jin looked down at himself like he had forgotten about his injuries. "Oh, yeah, okay. They are not too bad, though." "Not too bad. You have second-degree burns over 15% of your body." "I have had worse sunburns," Jin said, but he let the medical officer lead him toward the treatment area. Watched him go, then turned to his communication officer. "I need to file a report with the Academy Council immediately." "What should the report say, sir?" "That we have seriously underestimated human durability, and that the classification system may need to be revised. More ships arrived. The extraction was ahead of schedule because so many cadets had activated emergency beacons. Out of the 40 squads that had been deployed, only 12 had all members survive. 2 of those 12 included humans. As in his squad boarded their transport ship, spoke quietly, "I need to tell you something." "What's up?" "When I return to I'm going to tell everyone I know that humans are not to be feared because they are aggressive. Humans are to be feared because they simply do not understand when they should be afraid." Laughed, "I do get afraid. That predator the first night scared me. But then you scared it back, with fire and noise. That is not normal." Joined the conversation. "She is right. Your species' baseline for danger is completely different from ours. What you call a fun family activity, we call survival training." "What about you?" asked. "What do you think?" The amphibian was quiet for a moment. "I think that if I ever have to face another, I want a human with me. Not because they will protect me, but because they will make me believe I can survive it." The transport lifted off. Through the window could see Seven's jungle stretching below them. Purple clouds, dense trees, rivers that glowed with minerals. It had been a good hike. Challenging, sure, but good. He pulled out his and started writing a message to his sister. "Hey sis, just finished our final exam. They dropped us on a Class-9 world. It was pretty fun actually. Reminded me of that camping trip we took to Island, remember? The one where it rained the whole time. Anyway, I found some interesting plant samples. When I get back to base, I will send them to you. How is your latest survey going? Found any good hiking spots lately?" He sent the message and leaned back in his seat. Was watching him. "You just called a Class-9 fun." "Well, it was not boring. I have decided something." "What is that?" "When we graduate, I'm requesting assignment to whatever unit you join. Statistically, my survival odds increase by staying near a human." Smiled, "Sure, that would be nice. We made a good team. We survived because of you." "We survived because we worked together. You did great." Outside the window, Seven was falling away. Soon they would be back at the academy. Was already looking forward to a hot shower and a good meal, and maybe some actual rest. But part of him was already thinking about the next challenge, the next test, the next adventure. Because that was what humans did. They kept pushing forward, kept adapting, kept surviving. Even when the universe thought they should not. The Galactic Military Academy's central review chamber was full of senior officers from a dozen different species. They sat in a circular arrangement around a holographic display that showed footage from Seven. The atmosphere in the room was tense. Fleet Admiral, a veteran commander whose species had survived 3 wars of extinction, stood at the center. He was reviewing the mission reports with an expression of deep concern. "Play the footage again," he said quietly. The hologram shifted. It showed drinking from the acidic stream on day 1. Then it showed him eating the alien plant, building fire from nothing, scaring away running through the iron storm, making rain gear from leaves. And it showed Jin killing 3 apex predators with a sharpened stick. The room was silent. "These cadets are 19 years old," said. "Standard age for academy students. Yet they performed at a level we would expect from special forces operatives with years of field experience." From the delegation spoke up. "With respect, Admiral, I believe you are underselling it. Our special forces would not have survived that storm. The human did not just survive. He helped 3 other cadets survive as well. The question before us," continued, "is what this means for our understanding of humanity as a species." Commander stepped forward. "If I may, Admiral, I have been training cadets for 20 years. I have seen the best warriors from every species in the galaxy. These humans were not warriors. They were ordinary cadets, average students in most of their classes. And yet they survived where others died," another added. "That is my point," said. "If average humans can do this, what can their best do? What can their special forces accomplish? They're military veterans. They're explorers." The room erupted in concerned murmuring. Raised a hand for silence. "We need to reconsider our classification of Earth. Currently it is listed as Class 8. I'm seeing recommendations to upgrade that to Class 12. "Class 12, someone objected. "That would put it in the same category as worlds we consider fundamentally uninhabitable." "And yet humans evolved there naturally," said, "without genetic engineering or technological assistance. They simply adapted over millions of years to survive conditions that would kill most known species." The hologram changed again, showing footage of Earth, hurricanes that flattened cities, earthquakes that split the ground, volcanoes erupting with destructive force, deserts where temperatures exceeded 50 degrees, tundra where it dropped below -50, oceans with creatures that could swallow a small ship. And everywhere humans, living, working, building, thriving. They do not just survive these conditions, O whispered. They have cities in the paths of hurricanes. They build on fault lines. They live next to active volcanoes. Because they do not know any better, said. To them, this is normal. They think every species evolved fighting for survival against their planet. Pulled up more data. I have been reviewing human cultural records. They have something called adventure tourism. Humans pay money to put themselves in dangerous situations for entertainment. The hologram showed images. Humans jumping out of aircraft with parachutes, climbing sheer rock faces, diving with sharks, rafting down violent rapids, trekking across frozen wastelands. They call it fun, said quietly. The room went silent again. Finally, a senior spoke. What do we do with this information? Thought carefully before responding. We adjust our training protocols. We place human cadets in positions where their unique capabilities can be utilized, and we ensure that other species understand what they are getting when they request human assistance. You mean we warn them, they said. I mean we inform them that human threat assessment is fundamentally different from ours. What a human considers manageable, we should treat as serious danger. Conversely, if a human says a situation is actually dangerous, we should probably evacuate the sector. 2 weeks later, graduated at the top of his class. He had expected to receive a standard assignment like most cadets. Instead, he was called to a special briefing. The room contained Fleet Admiral and several other senior officers, saluted and stood at attention. At ease, Lieutenant said, had been promoted directly to lieutenant, skipping the usual rank progression. We have a special assignment for you. Sir, we are creating a new training program, human adaptation techniques. We want you to teach other species how to survive in extreme environments the way humans do. Blinked, sir, I'm not sure I can do that. What I do is just normal. That is exactly why you are perfect for this role. You do not overthink it. You simply adapt. We need you to teach that mindset to others. Over the next months, found himself running training exercises that seemed routine to him, but were revolutionary to everyone else. He taught aliens how to build fire, purify water, navigate without technology, and assess environmental threats. His first class included, and they had all requested to continue serving with him. Today we're going to practice hiking with weighted packs, announced on the first day. His students looked at the packs nervously. Sir asked, the weight is considerable. Are you certain we can manage this? You will be fine, said with a smile. It is just a little extra weight, builds character. By the end of the course, his students could do things they had never thought possible. They could start fires in the rain. They could hike for hours in challenging terrain. They could stay calm when faced with environmental hazards. But more importantly, they had learned the human mindset. Assess, adapt, overcome. Do not panic. Do not overthink. Just keep moving forward. News of his program spread. Soon he was receiving requests from Special Forces units across the galaxy. The units that went into the worst environments, faced the most dangerous missions, wanted to learn from a 19-year-old human who thought Class-9 were good hiking spots. One evening, after a particularly long training session, received a message from, Hey little brother, heard about your new job. Very proud of you. I'm currently surveying a Class 10 world in the Outer Rim. It is amazing here. The gravity is intense and the atmosphere has some interesting chemical properties, but the views are incredible. I have got 3 weeks of vacation coming up. Want to join me for some hiking? I have found some trails that I think you would love. Fair warning, the local predators are pretty aggressive. Should be fun. Smiled and sent back a reply. Sounds great. I will bring some supplies. Maybe we can camp out for a few days. Do I need special gear or just normal hiking equipment? The response came quickly. Just normal stuff. Maybe bring a good knife. The plants here are tough. Oh, and pack some extra water purification tablets. The streams are a bit acidic. Nothing serious, though. Started packing. Behind him had entered the room for their scheduled strategy meeting. Going somewhere? Asked. Yeah, visiting my sister for vacation. She is surveying a Class 10 world. A Class 10 world for vacation. Yep, good hiking trails apparently. Translator made a sound like a sigh. Of course. Why would humans rest on a normal world when they could hike on one of the deadliest environments in known space? You want to come? Asked. I am sure would not mind an extra person. Thought about it. 3 months ago he would have said no immediately. But now, after training with learning human survival techniques, understanding the human mindset, he was curious. What is the survival rate on Class 10 worlds? He asked. Not sure. Probably pretty low for most species. But you believe we would survive? Grinned. You have trained with me for 3 months. You have learned fire starting, shelter building, navigation, threat assessment. You are not the same cadet who landed on 7 terrified. You have adapted. You can handle this. That was when understood. It was not that humans did not feel fear. They did. But they had learned over millions of years that fear was just information, not a stop signal. You acknowledge the danger, you adapt your approach, and you keep moving forward. All right, Sid, I will come, but if we die I am filing a formal complaint. Laughed Deal. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council headquarters, the final report on the 7 exercise was being filed. The conclusions were clear. Earth was officially reclassified as a Class 12. The fact that humans evolved there naturally was noted as a statistical anomaly that current understanding of evolution and survival. Humans were recognized as having unique survival capabilities that exceeded any other known species. They were to be treated as a strategic resource for extreme environment operations. And perhaps most importantly, a new protocol was established. If a human says a situation is not too bad, that should be interpreted as extremely dangerous but survivable with human assistance. If a human says a situation is actually dangerous, that should be interpreted as evacuate immediately unless you have multiple humans present. The report ended with a note from Fleet Admiral. Spent centuries assuming that advanced civilization meant transcending environmental challenges through technology. Humans remind us that sometimes the best adaptation is not to change your environment, but to change yourself. They are strong not because their technology protects them, but because their world made them strong. Every other species fled from there or died trying to survive them. Humans stayed, adapted, and thrived. That makes them unique in the galaxy. That makes them valuable. And that makes them, frankly, a little terrifying. Back on the training grounds was teaching a new class of cadets how to build a fire in the rain. They struggled with the wet wood, the wind, the general difficulty of the task. "Sir," one cadet asked in frustration, "how do humans make this look so easy?" Thought about all the camping trips with his family, the times they had succeeded and the times they had failed, the lessons learned through trial and error over countless generations. "Practice," he said simply, "and remembering that difficulty is just part of the adventure. The hard parts are what make it worthwhile." He got the fire started with practiced ease and stepped back to let his students try again. Somewhere in the galaxy was climbing a cliff face on a Class 10 world, smiling as she pulled herself higher. Somewhere else, Jin was leading a rescue mission through a toxic swamp, keeping his team calm by reminding them it was not that bad. And across dozens of worlds, other humans were doing what they did best, surviving, adapting, and thriving in places that should have killed them. Because that was what Earth had taught them. The universe was dangerous, challenging, and often hostile, but none of that was a reason to stop. It was just a reason to keep hiking.